Hello, Internet. Welcome to another Wednesday's serial. This time I'm talking about the remainder of my Marvel books from my last shipment. So, just going to jump in. Steve Stroke doing Clobbering Time. If you haven't been picking this up, do. This is one of those weird hidden gems that is a B book that's totally worth picking up. I'm going to even go so far to say if you're not a big two person, you're not a Marvel person, whatever, pick this book up. This is fun monster mash madness. It's also effectively a new two in one for a few issues, but just called Clobbering Time. So it's the Thing and Hulk, and then it's the Thing and Wolverine, and then it'll be the Thing and Doctor Strange, and we'll see where it goes. But each issue is really fun, has some clever ideas, has the right kind of humor, has incredible art, and um, some drop down great action panels. It's everything you want in a big action comic, and I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just grand and fun and great, and please go support that because I mean it's honestly comics for comics sake. Great. More of that, please. Uh, Next up is Jed McKay's take on Doctor Strange. There's a lot of Doctor Strange lore, things that have been coming to the forefront that maybe I'm supposed to know, maybe I don't. I don't know. I'm not a big Doctor Strange fan. I think it's a decent book. I just Doctor Strange isn't for me, so I'm letting it go. That's all there is to it. Next is uh, Daredevil. So in 9, we get a lot of pain around this new Daredevil island. A lot of people are leaving and things are falling apart around Daredevil, in part because of his anger, in part because of his failure to live up to what he said this new ideal of what was going on with this new group would be. And then at the very end, you have a bunch of characters come in. Those characters are the Avengers. I say the Avengers because in the Avengers, the book that exists currently is not the lineup that comes here. It is Cap, of course. I say, of course, he wasn't in issue one. Why does he get to be quintessential? There's no Hulk. Um, there is Black Cat. So Cap, Black Cat, Doctor Strange, Wolverine, and Spider Man. It's like the new Avengers again, but not quite. Anyways, they show up. There's a tussle, and it's really mostly Cap and Spider Man. Spider Man's really the big one because Zdarsky has been playing the Spider Man Daredevil friendship, even though the entire time Spider Man's been really condescending to Daredevil, so that hasn't really worked out at all. Um, and in this, Daredevil's able to best him in a fight to get away long enough for Spider-Man to not know where he is in the mountain ranges. And that's most of the action of the issue. It's pretty slight. I don't know. I've been pretty down on the Zdarsky run. These two issues have been interesting, and actually seeing Matt fail with a lot of it has maybe softened me to enjoying it a bit more than I was before because he's been a pretentious douche with unrealistic expectations, but also it doesn't feel like Daredevil at all. Um, the main antagonists are the ultra rich people that he's fighting, and the idea that the Avengers are being manipulated by these people and whatnot just doesn't really click. And the entire time, even in here, which is something I hate, Matt has this internal monologue of how Spider Man is a good man, the best of us, which doesn't really align with how he's ever viewed Spider Man previously before Zdarsky. He's kind of viewed him as like his idiot stepbrother, uh, like in a familial sense. Like he views Spider Man as being incredibly powerful and like good at being a superhero, but also kind of a dork and kind of incompetent and like not well thought out. Like the fact that Matt is a lawyer and has answers and reasons for what he's doing, and Peter Parker is just chasing right, is something interesting because there's a method with everything Matt has done pretty much forever. And then Peter Parker is following emotion almost exclusively. And so it's this weird dynamic between the two, which makes the two a fun thing. And this ain't that. Uh I don't know. Oh, I also got the Eastman cover because I wanted the Kevin Eastman cover, and looking at it, this isn't Kevin Eastman's best work. I thought he put a little more into a Daredevil cover, considering everything. Uh, so I don't know. I like it a little more than I have liked Zdarsky's Daredevil up to this point, but I think Zdarsky's Daredevil is among the worst runs of Daredevil ever committed to page. Uh, it doesn't seem to have an understanding of the character. He's going completely away from the legal aspect, which is what makes Daredevil a compelling character, is that blend of kind of legal drama and super heroics at a street level, but that street level keeps things at a line where someone, gets off on a crime and then Daredevil brings them in, or Daredevil's able to use daredeviling to bring in evidence to bring in a crime to have a bigger win, or you have something like Soul's Run where he goes to the Supreme Court and affects massive change in a way that has repercussions in the Marvel universe but doesn't actually really affect 99% of most Marvel comics because they're never dealing with law. And even like the She-Hulk comics don't really touch that either. um, it's That's where it's best, and this is so far from that. Matt, where was I? Matt was talking about, yeah, about how Spider-Man is this ideal and how he doesn't understand that they're just doing the same thing over and over again. That's the definition of insanity. Meh. Well, like, okay, man, but like, so did you. And now you're so convinced that you have this right thing, but you're dealing with mysticism, you're burning amulets, you're getting people killed, you're pulling people out of prison. Like, there's a bunch of people pointing to a lot of things that you're doing that's highly questionable. You clearly don't have your shit together. It just doesn't work. And I feel like that's part of what Starsky's maybe trying to get to, but it just does not sing, does not work. Anyways, what's supposed to be the other end of that is Punisher 11, in which the Punisher is fighting the Avengers of a slightly different but similar group. Um, Huzzah. So, no Spider Man there, though, which feels weird. Um, Anyways, there's a lot in here, and Frank fighting the Avengers is kind of just have action and have something to draw against like this running narrative of, because meanwhile Frank's wife is learning about what Frank has been doing since they were killed at the park. And is mad that Frank did all this in their name, and it's this retcon, like a really wild retcon of how Frank's wife views violence, of how Frank's wife views Frank, and the fact that she wanted a divorce, and she was literally saying, "I want a div," and then got a bullet in the throat. Which at that point, uh, it's really, if you've read as much Punisher as I have at this point, this is a slap in the face. This is more than a retcon. This is a tearing down of the character. And what I'm wondering if Marvel's doing is trying to basically rip off Punisher's head, shit down his throat, and then cancel the line to be like, this is bad, which is a terrible way to go about it, because having Action Man, the Punisher, run around as a vigilante who's willing to kill and do these things creates a good and healthy tension against the rest of the Marvel universe. I mean, not for nothing, but I mean, there is some valid concerns to saying, like, yeah, a multi-millionaire like Norman Osborn commits mass murder multiple times, gets off on it, has been in high positions of power, and then disgraced, and then does something, somewhat redeems himself, and then gets a bunch of people killed again. Maybe What if the Punisher dealt with him? Is that the worst thing? I don't know. Having those questions, those conversations makes the Marvel Universe more salient. This idea, though, that not having any tension on the hero and that heroes don't kill no matter what is insane in a world where we galvanize soldiers, who is what Frank is representing, and having that. And yeah, and I want to go on. I have a lot of thoughts about the Punisher. I've listened to Jerry Conway's thoughts about the Punisher. I've listened to a number of other creators' thoughts about the Punisher, and it's interesting. One thing I want to say, and I'm going to repeat it, but I think it bears repeating, is that there's a mindset around the Punisher, and currently there's a lot of people, especially on a liberal side of thought, thinking that the Punisher represents a lot of things. He hates cops, kind of. He hates dirty cops, definitely, and he kind of hates himself and he views things in a certain way. And the Punisher has been written that way, and more recently for about a decade. But also for decades before, when the Punisher was at the height of his popularity and had movies coming out, that wasn't true. The Punisher at that point was a definitively right wing hero, and explicitly so, as stated in essays by the writers at the time of the creation, held within the books that said Punisher Marvel Comics right on the cover, talking about how you need someone who does the kinds of things the Punisher does. He was viewed in a different light, he was viewed as an able man, he was viewed very much in the 80s sort of soldier of fortune, but as virtuous and as effective as could be, at that time. And he represented something that a lot of people glommed onto. And in a way that said, yeah, you should be the good guy with the gun. Both of these things have been true in the history of the character. And them now doing this to him is. It, it's hard because I know that essentially it's a political fight through a fictional character, and it's really weird to see, and it's really hard to swallow because I'm definitely obviously more on the liberal side, but I'm also seeing like there's a way to write some stories and do things with the character that's true to the character and play to some of those Republican realities, but also bring in the other realities as well, and those conflicts and those pressures of the real world and those opposing viewpoints create natural conflict that would tell much more amazing stories. But instead, they want to do this. It's kind of disheartening because there's such an amazing opportunity to do something that could be really impactful, and they're throwing it away. For what? And doing what with this mystic Punisher, which is always the down churn of Punisher. They've done it multiple times, and every time they do, it sucks. This is the first time I think it's been received with any amount of positivity, except for people liking the camp of Frankencastle, which, okay. So there's all that. And then there's the current crown jewel in Marvel's hat right now, the Fantastic Four. Um, this issue's incredible. I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it. There's this dangerous algae affecting a certain part of the world, and they're worried about it growing out. They try to deal with it fairly directly using all their powers, and they just can't act fast enough. And then they work out what they need to do is blot out the sun for 3 days, and that will take care of the algae. They do so with a lot of character building, fun moments, and whatnot along the way, including a Dr. Octopus fight. I'm not spoiling everything. I'm just going over some of the broad strokes, which kind of shows like how much is going on in this comic. And then Shield gets wind. I mean, obviously, Shield's aware of them blotting out states worth of light for a few days. And the Fantastic Four are good to like let people know why they're doing it. And yes, this is an inconvenience, and we're sorry, but we're doing it so you don't all die. Um, you may have noticed the water has been turning green. Okay. So after all that, the Shield come to capture the Fantastic Four yet again because they now view Sue Storm as a potential global threat. And so they're running so that they don't have Sue in custody because she did something to help save lives. It, it's really well done, and the conflicts are all there. They all make sense, and it's not just hero versus hero. It's not some registration act thing. It's a genuine idea, and it's kind of fun because it is like that mutant menace and what can they do, that sort of thing, all there, but it's focused on character actions directly correlated to what they have done, not just who they are. And that makes it more compelling. Not to take anything away from X-Men and that, but that idea there being directly correlated is really interesting, and interesting that she did it to save the planet, and then all Shield can focus on is what she could do, not what she will do. And with some fair reasoning, if you know some of the history of the Fantastic Four. It's really cool, and I'm really curious to see where it goes next. That book is just, it's a highlight ever since the relaunch. I mean, I enjoyed the slot run, and I have enjoyed some of the runs right before the cancellation, but this is the best Fantastic Four has been in a long, long time. And I highly recommend it. So, cheers. Keep reading. And catch you soon with another comic review.